in many countries, the progressive side of politics, the Social Democrats, the Socialists, the Labor parties, the Democrats in your context, were the breeding ground for those politicians were the working class movements. You know, the trade union movements and worker associations and things. And now, in many of the countries, the recruiting grounds for progressive parties are university-educated lawyers and accountants and bankers. Those characters don't have the working class roots that progressive policies used to have, and they have a much different narrative. And so that's the sort of surrender mentality that's developed in all the social democratic movements. And the challenge for progressive side of politics is to recapture the political parties that are meant to represent our voice, and to then educate the masses to deprogram us from the neoliberal narratives that our progressive politicians have fed us for too long.
And this is a huge problem with the Green Party in the United States. I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but I do know within the United States, there is a movement within the Greens that they are beginning to open their mind, and they're beginning to push back against the neoliberal narratives that live within, or the burn it down narratives that live, or the just stories from the fire pit narratives that live in the Green Party. And you've talked extensively about reframing modern monetary theory, stating it differently, coming up with narratives that work for people at their level so that they understand these things. How might you suggest we work past these emotional blockers that people throw up the minute that you say something about their beloved party? They're not worried about the beloved people, they're worried about their beloved party. And it's very, very difficult for all of us, quite frankly, that are trying to change the world, to get past this recalcitrance, this indignation that comes with any seeming critique of their their beloved party. Can you help me there?
You know, I've had very close dealings with Green parties and the leadership of Green parties in trying to persuade them to adopt a progressive economic narrative to support and complement their excellent social and environmental narratives in the main. And I won't say who, but at one particular point I had a meeting with the Greens leader in Australia. Now, I won't tell you who because you don't know when. And that person said to me, "Look, Bill, you may be right on all this economic stuff, but we're not going to ever take it on because it's too hard for people to understand, and it will just distract us and them from our core business, which is environment and more recently social policy." And my reply was, it is complex, but you're not ever going to be able to achieve your social and environmental agenda because you're never going to be able to address and refute the statement that we can't afford any of that. And the Green parties are very interesting because in different countries they're sort of schizophrenic structures. They're a mixture of very conservative, in Australia we call them tree huggers. So these are people who have got very committed but very narrow focus on what they want, and that's to preserve forests, native forests, rainforests, and things like that. They're the tree huggers, and they're ultimately quite conservative. And there's another element in Greens parties that come from the sort of industrial left, and these people have been refugees, if you like, from the deindustrialisation that our nations have gone through as manufacturing has changed and shifted countries and shifted regions. And their approach to greenness is very different. They are much more amenable to an economic discourse than the tree hugger type green, who's not really interested in it at all, and who would be really if you were just worried about preserving forests. And to me that's one of the problems of Greens type parties historically. Now, how they get out of that bind, they have, if they want to be truly progressive, they have to become MMT oriented, in my view. They have to abandon statements. I mean, our Greens leader now is talking about, cutting deficits and cutting debt and bringing in market-based trading systems for carbon. That's just pure neoliberalism. They have to get away from that to be truly progressive. I don't see that they're going to. And if you look at the national elections almost in every country over the last several years, the Greens parties in most countries have been going backwards. And that's because they really can't cut through the debate, because no matter how progressive their social and environmental policy are, they always get picked off by how they're going to pay for it. And the way they normally turn around is with the sort of ridiculous tax the rich arguments, which is sort of the progressive, crevasse that they always fall down to. We'll just tax the rich. And that's the middle class see tax the rich as taxing them as well. And so I'm not a political scientist or a psychologist, but I know that the Greens aren't cutting through because they are still neoliberal, mainly in economic matters. And what we really need is progressive forces to bypass them and create new political platforms that are both progressive in social and environmental policy, but also economic policy.
Being that you're from Australia, you certainly understand the Australian side. I'm in the U.S. and I happen to have been battling the U.S. Green Party, and I've been to New Jersey, spoke at the national meeting, and provided a full-blown explanation of the basics of how to pay for a Green New Deal. And the leadership of the Green Party stayed out in the hall. They literally got up when they saw me going to present, and they walked out, because the Green Party in the U.S. supports something called American Monetary Institute, or AMI, which is a positive money spin, which is money crank nonsense. And we have debunked them. We have disabused them repeatedly. We have shown the error of their ways, yet they double down and keep going back to the greening of the dollar and all these other cute marketing phrases that have no basis in any real economics. They're founded from a faulty starting point. And quite frankly, they're the reason why the Green Party is literally struggling right now. But there are Greens that have heard, that are not defending green only, that are actually trying to make the Green Party viable by learning proper economics. And there is a strong push right now within the Green Party to rewrite Section M of your national platform so that you guys can actually accomplish this beautiful Green New Deal that you guys have pushed forward. I fully support it, but your economic platform as it stands doesn't get it done, period, full stop. Emotionalism will do nothing but just show that you're being emotional. The real deal right now is that for you to save people, planet, and really make this a great opportunity for your party to excel, you need to do as Bill Mitchell said, and that is adopt MMT as a lens.
Yeah, I mean, the point is, Steve, that, yeah, I know more about Australia, which is understandable, but I haven't seen any statements from Green US leaders, Green parties in Europe, in Britain, in South America. I haven't seen any statements from them that are indicative that they understand macroeconomics in an MMT way, and which means that effectively they're riddled with what we now call mainstream economic concepts, clothed in progressive language and framing, but you can't escape the underlying bias. That's the reality.
So the Green Party asks, what the hell is MMT?
Well, there you go.
There you go. That right there is what we'll end on. Thank you, Francis, for saying that. That's a good statement to end on. Dr. Mitchell, I want to thank you right now so much for spending time with us. You gave us, I normally keep these to an hour, but when I have someone like you on, I stretch this thing out a little bit. I appreciate your patience, and I look forward to having you back again. Just as a point of reference, last time we talked, I know I had mentioned this, but I want to say last week we filed with the state of Pennsylvania to become a 501c3 nonprofit. We want to be able to take this message to the progressive community and the world at large. We are not just US based, man. We're looking globally here. So everything that you're doing is helping us, and we are very, very grateful for all the support that you've given. You have been an incredible contributor for our the work that we're doing, and we hope that we provided value to the cause as well.
Okay, take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mitchell. Everyone, have a good night. Have a happy Mother's Day for those of you still celebrating. We'll see you soon.
See you later.